All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Ignacio Mata, and I'm assistant staff at the Genomic Medicine Institute here at the Cleveland Clinic at the LRI. And today is my pleasure to introduce two excellent people. The first one is Asif Saki, who is Penny and Stephen Weinberg Chair in Brain Health, and also Vice Chair of Research in the Department of Neurology at the University Hospitals in Cleveland. He's also an investigator at the DARO, the also Ocular Motility Laboratory at the Cleveland Functional Electrical Stimulation Center at the Louis Stokes Cleveland VA. He receives his MD from Medical College Baroda in India and his PhD from Wayne State University. He completed his residency here at the University Hospitals Case, and then completed fellowships at Johns Hopkins and Emory University. He has received many awards, including recently the George C. Coetzee Memorial Fellowship by the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And he does a really interesting research trying to understand the brain through the eyes. And then I also wanted to introduce Kathy Schwartz, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Emotion here in Beechwood, Ohio. A nonprofit organization that uses multidisciplinary approaches to improve the lives of people with Parkinson's. She wears many hats. She's responsible for the overall strategy mission. He also has responsibilities in the operations, including staff programs, expansion of their mission. She received her VA in political science from WashU in St. Louis, and then her master's in public administration from the University of Colorado in Denver. She has shepherded the development of many for-profit and non-profit entities. So yeah, welcome you both, and please take it away.
Thank you, Ignacio. Eleni, can I share the screen? Great, perfect. Thank you, Lynn, Eleni, for this invitation. Thank you, Ignacio, for your kind introduction. And it's an honor to partner with Kath Schwartz today in chatting with you a little bit about how academia and community has worked together over the last 2-3 years in my lab and forever in Cleveland. With that, I want to give a little bit of a perspective as an academician that how the community and academic partnership works. So as an academician, I think the community partner is an ideal partner that facilitates cutting edge patient care. So they guide patients to right type of doctors or right type of healthcare facilities, make right connections. At the same time, they also offer ancillary support to the patients. In addition to patient care, it is very important as an investigator to get access to patients, for participants, for patient-centered research, and vice versa, for patients to get access to research. And if you're an MD seeing patients, it may boost the recruitment efforts beyond your clinic, but very frequently we see investigators who do not see patients, and they do need access to much larger group of patients. And in such case, the institutions like InMotion or community can be very instrumental for them to get right type of participants for their testing their bright ideas. And of course, the common goal has to be conquer the given disease and improve the quality of life of the sufferers from that condition. And we are fortunate here at in Cleveland to have partnership with InMotion for Parkinson's disease. And like I said, my lab has done that over last 2 to 3 years, and we have amazing success stories to share, which I will spend a few minutes in subsequent slides. So in 2 years, in partnership with InMotion, we published several papers. 6 of the peer-reviewed papers have already been published over the last 2 years, which utilized this partnership. And we have few more under preparation. We had a good score on one extramural federal grant where InMotion is our official partner. And we had altogether, we provided excellent patient care for those who are suffering from Parkinson's disease. So I will give you some examples that what type of research that we did where we had partnered with InMotion. So our research, one of our focuses is on balance and spatial navigation. And that is very important because Parkinson's patients not only just get tremor or stiffness or slowness of the body, but about 70% of these patients fall frequently. When my patients ask me whether Parkinson's disease can be lethal, what I tell them is Parkinson's does not kill the patient, but the consequences of Parkinson's, such as infections or aspiration or the fall, that can then lead to lethal consequences. So it is very important to figure out the etiology of fall in Parkinson's disease and how to prevent it. And that's exactly our goal. Together, we want to mitigate falls in Parkinson's disease. And in order to do that, we asked 2 questions. So the first question that we asked is, why do patients with Parkinson fall? And once we figure out, we want to find out a cutting edge treatment such as deep brain stimulation and modify that or utilize that to mitigate falls in Parkinson's disease. So obviously, our goal is neuromodulation for balance and dysfunction in Parkinson's disease. So as you know, the deep brain stimulation or neuromodulation in Parkinson's right now is focused towards treatment of tremor, stiffness, slowness, many motor symptoms. Something that is going to shape the future of deep brain stimulation is to utilize that for balance dysfunction, for visual spatial navigation, for executive function in Parkinson's disease. And that's exactly what we are interested in. So what we study is we study how DBS or how Parkinson changes the perceptions of one's own movement. Let's say if I'm driving a car. As I'm driving a car, I perceive my own movement, whether I'm moving to the right side, whether my car is drifting to the left side, whether I'm turning in a turn. Perception of my own movement is critical for me to execute future behavior. And one question that we are asking is, how am I moving in the world? At the same time as you're driving a car or you are navigating on your world, the things move around you. So perception of your surrounds movement. And that is also equally important for you to execute appropriate function. So the second question that we ask is how DBS can modulate perception of your surround. And third, how you can utilize this perceived signals to accurate more execution. How you take action and perception and integrate that together for better execution of movement. Once you answer these 3 questions, you can have quite decent idea that how to modulate the system to prevent imbalance, to prevent navigational problems, and hopefully to prevent falls. So first part of our study where we got several patients from InMotion was to study perception of one's own movement. So actually it's a serendipity that we got onto that track. And that serendipity changed the way we deal with falls in Parkinson. And it started back in 2013 when I was working with my mentor, Melon DeLong, as a fellow at Emory University. As part of DBS surgery, part of the DBS surgery is when patient is sedated And other part of the DBS surgery had classically in traditional old days, it used to be when a patient is awake and we implant the electrode in the brain, we map patient's brain where electrode is supposed to be and ask patient their experience, examine patients, look for the change in the tremor, change in the tone in response to DBS. And as we were doing what we call mapping of the brain, as we were mapping the brain and stimulating patient's subthalamic nucleus in the OR, at one characteristic location, patient reported to us that he's feeling dizzy. Stimulating a specific part of the subthalamic nucleus reversibly made the patient feel vertiginous, which was very interesting, and it was more or less unheard of. And we wondered what was going on. Then patient came to the clinic and we turned on a specific electrode, which was most distal in the DBS. So here in this is a reconstructed map of patient's brain, that particular patient's brain. This is patient's deep subthalamic nucleus, and these are the deep brain stimulating probe. So in this electrode, when we stimulated the one contact, which was very medial contact, patient reversibly told us in the clinic that he's feeling spinning. He's feeling vertiginous. He's feeling as if room is spinning around him. He's in the merry-go-round. So we wondered why patient is feeling that way. And it turned out that that electrode actually was in vicinity of another tract which carries the balance and perception signal from the cerebellum to the thalamus. So the way a system works is when you move around your inner ear, which is your motion sensors, your accelerometers, and your gyroscopes. They sense your movement. It goes to the vestibular nuclei in brainstem and cerebellum, and then it goes further up into the cortex via thalamus and for the perception of that movement. And that track actually passes in vicinity to subthalamic nucleus. And in this particular patient with an electrode contact, we could modulate that pathway. That one patient then taught us a lesson, and that ended up becoming a major experiment, which is currently funded by numerous organizations in my lab. So that experiment had two parts. First part, what we utilize a very unique motion platform, and we create artificial motion and study patients with Parkinson. So the way it works is we have a motion simulator. It's more or less a flight simulator or a space ride simulator, which is often used by NASA. We have one of such simulators in our lab. Patients sit on that platform and they are given the seat belts, restraints, just like an Air Force or fighter jet pilot's seat belts, almost like that. And their head is restrained, and they wear a virtual reality goggle, and then they're given a probes in their hand to report which direction they are moving. While they are sitting in the chair, the simulator moves in different directions, and patients will have to report with a button which way they are moving. So here is a little video of our system in action, and it is often used by NASA to train astronauts, but we use that to study patients with Parkinson. Patients sit in the system like that, and the system moves what we call en bloc motion, and patients will have to report with the joysticks, as you see over there, whether they are moving to the right or they're moving to the left. And we take that information and we make a psychometric function curve, which gives a precise estimate of patients' movements. And the second set of the experiment is how the surrounds move around them. So as they're seated in the chair, they wear the immersive virtual reality goggle, and this goggle had these star clouds which move, and it looks like that. And now patients will have to report whether this perceived movement of the cloud, in other words, perceived movements of theirs in virtual reality, is that to the right side or to the left side. So again, in the chair movement, it is patient's movement, and in the star cloud movement is the visual surround movement. And altogether, it gives the immersive experience of your movement through the space, right? And as they are doing it, they report whether they are moving to the right or to the left, and it comes out in form of a psychometric function curve. So what it does, it allows us to very precisely measure the perceived self-motion of a given person who is doing the experiment. And when Parkinson patients do that study, we can tell that how well the patient with Parkinson can perceive that motion and how their psychometric function curve is differing from a healthy subject's psychometric function curve. What are the thresholds for them to perceive movement, whether they are biased in perceiving movement to the right side or to the left side. And then what we do is we do the same study when in the same patient, the deep brain stimulator is on, or then again when it is off. And what we examine is how DBS on both sides of the brain alters the perception of their own movement. So what we found that deep brain stimulation in particular location, in fact, improves the ability of a person's to perceive their own motion in visual and in the vestibular domain. Not only that, we also found out a strategic stimulation location. So in this graph over here, what you see is it's a reconstruction of patient's own MRI and patient's own DBS electrode and their customized DBS stimulation field. So the yellow part in this, what you see is the patient's thalamus, and a little almond-shaped green structure at the bottom of that yellow part is patient's subthalamic nucleus. That is where the DBS electrode is. The electrode is shown in the blue color here, and this red cherry shape thing that you see, it is the electrical field which is generated by the deep brain stimulation electrode, and that is generated, and when you turn on that field, this particular patient can have improved perception of the motion. So what we found out is whenever we stimulate the dorsal aspect of the subthalamic nucleus and fibers which are dorsal to subthalamic nucleus, that leads to improved perception of patient's movement. And what that means is dorsal subthalamic nucleus is connected in some way to the motion perceptual pathways, and those pathways then lead to improved motion perception. This study was done over last 2 years, resulted in several publications, including it was highlighted in the cover of our journal Movement Disorder. So that was about perception of patients' own movements. The second question that we ask is, how do the patients perceive their surround? So, very famous monument from my home country, Taj Mahal. So as you are looking at Taj Mahal, you see a very crisp, clear picture of Taj Mahal, and when you see it in real life in 3D. In order to view anything in 3D, you need the vision from your left eye and right eye, and it needs to be properly aligned. God forbid if there is a pathology which leads to shift or turn of your right eye or left eye, one of the two eyes in one direction, what that leads to is it leads to a little disparity in the way the image goes in from the left eye and from the right eye. And when that happens, brain perceives that as blurred image or a double vision. So double vision or blurred vision visual problems are extremely common in Parkinson's disease. A recent press release and a paper which came out in American Academy of Neurology said that up to 70%, more than 2/3 of patients who have Parkinson can get double vision or the visual problems. So what we set out is we have a state-of-art eye movement measurement systems in our lab. We use those systems to study eye movement and binocular function in patients with Parkinson's disease. So what we see here, this is an example of eye movement recording from a patient with Parkinson who does not have DBS turned on. What I'm plotting here on the y-axis is vertical eye position of a patient in degrees, and horizontal eye positions are on the x-axis. The green is the left eye and red is the right eye. What you see is that the position of the left eye and right eye are actually spaced out a little bit. So the right eye is a little more to the right and a little more down. So as a result, this particular person with Parkinson's disease, when this person look at the Taj, it's going to see, that person is going to see it double or it's going to look blurred. Now, the same person had DBS. When we turn on his DBS, what we find is that the right eye, which was deviated, it actually shifts back and it superimposes on the left eye, and vision becomes clear all of a sudden. So deep brain stimulation in people with Parkinson's disease also improves their binocular control, and that improves their visual function. So this was another accomplishment in our lab. And not only that, we also identified a strategic stimulation location. So again, this is the same a patient's MRI, reconstructed areas of the brain where the deep brain stimulation electrode is. So again, the green here is subthalamic nucleus, blue are the DBS electrode, and the red sphere is the electrical field. And as you can see, in people who have improvement in their visual function, the electrical field is either in the center and dorsal to the subthalamic nucleus. And when that's the location of the field, it actually improves their vision and depth perception. This work was done by my graduate student Palak Gupta and my collaborator Fatima Gassia. And it was recently published in Journal of Neural Engineering and Journal of Neuro-Ophthalmology. And several more papers are to be coming from this. And most remarkably, this work was supported by the seed funding, which came from CBHI and InMotion, and my Kadzia's fellowship from APDA. That's another example that how we partner with a community like InMotion, not only to get research participant, but also to get seed funding to accomplish some exciting results. Other important thing when you look at the surround is you want to look at the right location. And it turns out that patients with people with Parkinson's disease are not looking at the right place. So if I tell somebody, we show people, participant this little picture and ask them to look for the loaf of bread. What happens, healthy subjects, when they look around this picture, we measure their eye movements and we find out where their eye had been in the picture. And what we find is that it had been in the green shadows where on the fridge, on the counter, in the bowl. Finally, they found the loaf of bread and they focused their eyes on that loaf of bread. And you can see with the heat map that over there, they spend the most amount of time. That means they found the loaf of bread. Now, if I ask the same question to a person with Parkinson's disease, unfortunately, what happens is the person never could find loaf of bread. That Parkinson patient was looking at the toaster oven. Now, if you think logically, the loaf of bread is supposed to be in the toaster oven, right? So that person was actually going with his or her prior experience that loaf of bread, oh, it has to be in the toaster oven, keeps his eyes there, could not move it from there, and finally could not get to the loaf of bread. What that means is the eyes see only what the person's mind was prepared to comprehend, could not move on if the target was not found. In other words, there is a prior experience. That prior experience is utilized in a correct way, but could not change the priors if circumstances did not end up being true. And this was a fundamental problem we found in numerous patients who had Parkinson's disease. Now, this was when DBS was turned off. Then what we did is we asked the question that where is the cup of coffee? So the cup of coffee was in microwave. Again, asked the healthy participant where was cup of coffee. Healthy participant could identify it accurately in the microwave. Now the same person with Parkinson who had DBS and initially could not find loaf of bread, when we asked the same person when DBS was turned on to find out the cup of coffee, very precisely and very accurately found the cup of coffee. So basically, the bottom line is that deep brain stimulation not only does better control of the motor system, but it also improves our ability to perceive and execute. And the key here is location, 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 and we are trying to find the right location. I want to thank Department of Veterans Affairs, American Academy of Neurology, George Kotzias, CBHI, and many other philanthropic organizations to support our research. And with that, I will hand the screen over to Kat.
Thank you, Asif, and thank you, Ignacio, for that lovely introduction. I really appreciate it. I am going to talk about InMotion and the community perspective on research and partnership. But before I do that, I just want to acknowledge CBHI's role in our community in terms of fostering these types of partnerships between the academic community and the nonprofit community. CBHI's role as a conduit and as a convener has been incredibly valuable in a community like Northeast Ohio, where that is so rich in resources, but sometimes lacks the channels for communication and sharing. And so I just want to thank you for what you're doing. So first, I want to talk a little bit about InMotion. Several of our speakers have alluded to it, but I'm not sure if everybody knows exactly what we do at InMotion. Am I able to control this? Oh, there we go. So InMotion was founded in 2015 as a holistic integrated wellness center for people with Parkinson's. We are a one-stop shop. So if you want to exercise, if you want to box, if you want to do yoga, if you want to cycle, whatever evidence-based exercise programs that are available to Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's are available at InMotion. In addition, we also provide education and support. All of these services are at no cost to people with Parkinson's disease, which removes one of those barriers to people accessing services. So as such, we are 100% funded by grants and individuals and businesses. Pals in Motion, which is coming up on September 19th, is our 5K, 1K walk run, and it's one of our biggest fundraisers. From the beginning, we have been very committed to gathering our own data to support our outcomes, which speaks to our funders and tells them that we are a great investment. We're also very committed to collaborating with others in the community, both here in Northeast Ohio and in the larger community, where our interests are in sync with their research interests. In addition to our own research, we're also really committed to keeping our clients informed about credible research projects that contribute to the body of knowledge about Parkinson's disease. As you can imagine, we get lots of requests from people all over the country, some more credible than others, about having access to our client base. So in order to kind of sift through all of those requests, we really wanted to look inside, and Asif, if you can move it to the next slide, that'd be great. We really had decided it was important to have some internal conversations about what our priorities as a nonprofit organization were in terms of research. And those things that we identified really guide our decision-making process about who we're going to partner with. So we look very, very carefully at the project, about the qualifications of the researchers. Does this support our proof of concept and the things that we're interested in terms of the outcomes supporting our approach to Parkinson's wellness? Because we are 100% donor funded, we also look at the implications for our long-term sustainability. Is there a place for InMotion in the project budget? And then we look at whether there are opportunities for building awareness about InMotion and what we provide, and the very unique approach that we take to InMotion, to Parkinson's wellness for people with Parkinson's, through publications, through presentations, through other awareness types of building opportunities. And we also look at the level of involvement required from our staff and our clients. We are a fairly small organization. We have 9 staff people. We are instructors. And we have about 12 to 15 instructors, and we serve about 1,000 clients and care partners. So we really want to know, are these projects going to be something that is going to be worth our time and our clients' time? Our clients run the gamut from people whose mobility is very limited to people who honestly are in better shape than I am. So it's really a wide swath of folks who have Parkinson's. And they are a very educated, proactive group of people. And so we want to be sure that we're partnering with people that have the same outlook about wellness and that we do. So I think, the best kind of partnership is one in which each entity benefits. And that all starts, I think, from having a level of trust with your partner. So what we look for, again, in terms of partnering with the academic community is trust and an understanding of the value of what we bring to the table. We have a knowledge of our population that is really unique. And, we are not academics and we do not do bench research, but we do bring that special, unique knowledge of who our population are and who the members of our population are and what they bring to the table. And we see our role as a bridge to access that population. I think in our collaboration with OSEF, there's been a respect on both sides for those unique elements that each partner brings to the table. We obviously can't do what he does, and I think he would be the first to agree that he can't do what we do. So there's that great synergy that comes from that appreciation for what each person brings to the table. I think too, one of the most important pieces that we look for when we're thinking about whether to enter into a partnership with an academic researcher is that it's kind of indefinable. It's this respect and an empathy for our clients by the researchers. First and foremost, they're people. They're not patients necessarily. They're not subjects. They are people who are living with a really challenging disease and want, I think, to live their lives as constructively and as positively as they possibly can. And we at InMotion take that responsibility very seriously, and we try to foster that sense of self-advocacy, the sense of knowing about their disease so that they can be informed participants in their healthcare, in research, in exercise, and whatever they're doing. And we've really appreciated in the partnerships that we've had to date with the academic side that sense of appreciation for who our people are and what they go through every day. That's been a really important part of our partnership and why it's been successful. Asaf, do you want to hit the slide button? Okay. Thanks. I think that's So I hope that helps as you all are thinking about partnerships and with the academic, with the community and with the nonprofit community, you know, in terms of figuring out what's important and figuring out ways to create those win-wins is really an important element of a successful partnership. So I think we're both happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you both for those great presentations. We're running a little bit behind. I don't know if you, Eleni, how do you feel about answering maybe one question, or if not, people can put them in the chat and you guys can answer them in the chat, just in the interest of time.
Sure. Why don't we move on to Dr. Pieper? But if you do have a question, please put it in the chat and we will make sure to get it to Dr. Shaikh or to Kathy Schwartz. Thank you both very much.